The January 6th committee is making a new allegation against former President Trump. Investigators say there's evidence that Trump called one of the witnesses and tried to influence them. This came during another big day of testimony on Capitol Hill, and that's where we find Nikole Killion.
Good morning. Witness tampering is a serious charge that could amount to obstruction of justice if proven. Committee members say they don't know if a crime was committed, but have referred the matter to the Department of Justice, which has declined in comment.
We will take any effort to influence witness testimony very seriously.
Vice Chair Liz Cheney issued another warning after alleging that former President Trump may have tried to contact a select committee witness.
After our last hearing, President Trump tried to call a witness in our investigation, a witness you have not yet seen in these hearings. That person declined to answer or respond to President Trump's call and instead alerted their lawyer.
A spokesperson for the former president accused Cheney of trafficking in innuendos and lies that go unchallenged. The surprise revelation capped off a 3-hour hearing about how the mob was mobilized January 6th. The panel focused on a White House meeting December 18th with then-President Trump. In attendance, Trump's former national security advisor Michael Flynn, conservative legal consultant Sidney Powell, and personal attorney Rudy Giuliani.
The meeting has been called unhinged.
According to witness testimony, they were trying to sell the former president on a plan to seize voting machines and appoint Powell as special counsel to investigate voter fraud. The committee says it devolved into a profane screaming match that almost came to blows.
I'm going to categorically describe it as, you guys are not tough enough. Or maybe I put it another way, you're a bunch of
New video testimony was unveiled from former White House counsel Pat Cipollone, who was also in the meeting.
The three of them were really sort of forcefully attacking me verbally, and we were asking one simple question as a general matter. Where is the evidence?
After the session broke up, Trump sent a tweet in the overnight hours encouraging supporters to come to Washington January 6th. He wrote, "Be there, we'll be wild."
This tweet served as a call to action, and in some cases as a call to arms for many of President Trump's most loyal supporters.
Supporters like Stephen Ayers, an Ohio man who recently pleaded guilty for participating in the riot.
The president, got everybody riled up, told everybody to head on down. So we basically were just following what he said.
The committee argued far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers also seized on Trump's post.
What it was going to be was an armed revolution. I mean, people died that day. This could have been the spark that started a new civil war.
We fight like hell.
After the rioters converged on the Capitol, even some in Trump's orbit suggested he had gone too far. The panel released text messages between ex-campaign advisors Katrina Pearson and Brad Parscale, who told Pearson, "If I was Trump and knew my rhetoric killed someone." Pearson replied, "It wasn't the rhetoric." Parscale replied, "Yes, it was."
CBS News has learned the next hearing will be held in prime time July 21st and will offer a minute-by-minute account of what happened on January 6th. Anne-Marie, Vlad.
All right, Nikole, thank you. Congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is joining us now to talk a little bit more about what we heard yesterday. Let us begin, Scott, with this December 18th Oval Office meeting. Committee members described it as the craziest meeting of the Trump presidency. All sorts of wacky ideas, some of them illegal, being thrown about the Oval Office. Can you tell us what happened in that meeting? Remind us.
Well, Anne-Marie, it was characterized as a vulgar, loud, and nearly violent meeting with these 11th-hour unofficial legal advisors to Donald Trump, including Sidney Powell, including retired, or I should say, former national security advisor, retired military officer Michael Flynn. And the meeting really is a prequel to what the committee says happened hours later. That December 19th tweet coming right out of the meeting in which Donald Trump talks about January 6th and says, "Be there, we'll be wild." The committee has been emphatic. That tweet was a galvanizing force ahead of January 6th. We focused so much on the hours of January 6th on that day. The committee moved us back 18 days to what really was another seminal day, December 19th. What happened that day? Well, immediately, far-right groups, conspiracy theorists latched on to Trump's tweet, according to the committee. That same day, December 19th, according to our CBS News reporting, the Proud Boys are accused of organizing their Stop the Steal rally. 3 days later, according to our reporting, the Oath Keepers are accused of mobilizing toward D.C. for January 6th. All of it hinging on that tweet, which was the immediate response from Donald Trump, Anne-Marie and Vlad, from that December 18th meeting.
Yep. So the other sort of news that came out, especially towards the end of the hearing, Scott, as you know, is Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney had a public warning for the former president about possible witness tampering. What has the committee learned?
We did not expect that revelation at the end of the hearing, but it's also not the first time the committee has alleged a possible effort to tamper with its witnesses. At a previous hearing, they carved out some of the valuable real estate of the hearing to say witnesses were getting messages from people in Trump's orbit saying that they hope they remain loyal and that people are watching, almost mob-like. And then in yesterday's hearing, Congresswoman Cheney, the vice chair of the committee, called out Donald Trump by name, saying Trump himself tried to call a witness who has yet to appear publicly. The call wasn't connected, or the witness didn't take the call, instead contacted his or her attorney. But Ms. Cheney said that they've mentioned this and referred this to the U.S. Department of Justice, which hasn't commented. But the clear allusion here is to possible witness tampering, which in some contexts would be a federal crime, and a serious one at that.
Scott, among the witnesses yesterday was one of the riders who was charged in the who went to the Capitol on January 6th, Stephen Ayers. He said he just showed up for the Stop the Steal rally, and then he sort of described himself as a family man who got caught up in everything. But at the end, he walks over to a group of police officers who were also there at the hearing, and he apologizes to them. And, you know, these are officers who have talked publicly about how traumatizing that whole day was for them. Can you tell us what that was like?
Now, among those who he apologized to, Sergeant Aquilino Gonell and Officer Harry Dunn, who you see in that image. Sergeant Gonell remains injured from January 6th and is still somewhat off the job. Officer Dunn has been a witness before this committee and has attended all the committee hearings, and you see Stephen Ayers apologizing to Dunn, apologizing to Gonell. Stephen Ayers and the former Oath Keepers spokesman who testified yesterday really lent voice to January 6th in a way I hadn't heard yet. Sergeant Gonell, Officer Dunn, you see there receiving the apology, but it was the words during the hearing from Ayers and the former Oath Keeper spokesman that landed in a certain way with people close to this committee. We heard Stephen Ayers say that the mob would have responded and retreated if Donald Trump had issued a clarion call January 6th to go home sooner. That's an important point for him to make ahead of the committee's next hearing, which is next Thursday, which will focus on the accused dereliction of duty of Donald Trump by this committee. But also the former Oath Keepers founder leaning in to the seminal moment in America, January 6th, when a gallows and noose were erected outside the U.S. Capitol, and we appeared possibly on the verge of a civil war. I've heard a lot of prosecutors, a lot of politicians talk about January 6th. They really laid it out well during yesterday's hearing.
Yeah, and Scott, I was telling Anne-Marie I was struck by those text messages between Brad Parscale and Katrina Pearson because it is part of the narrative that the January 6th committee has been building, which is that there were people that day and in the days after, like, for example, the House Minority Leader, who condemned what happened on that day because they saw with their own eyes what had transpired. And there you have in that text exchange with Parscale and Pearson, Brad Parscale basically saying the rhetoric led to this, people have died, and how the tune changed just a couple of weeks later. Yes. So I think that's what the committee is laying out, that in the moment, there were people, very powerful people, including perhaps even the president, who were aware that what was happening was wrong.
Yeah.
and they continue to foment it.
Even if
So
they said different things publicly later on.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Scott, as always, my friend, thank you very much for your reporting. We appreciate it.